So guys, welcome episode 6 of the Christchurch Newcastle podcast. And excitingly, it's only taken us 6 episodes, but we do actually have a name for the podcast.
Yeah.
And the name, well, you'll probably see the name. You've probably clicked on it. It's probably in the link already. Casting Frowns. What do you think about that? Well, Rick, you came up with it. What do you think about it?
I like it. I'll tell you the story behind it, because we were texting on our little podcast WhatsApp group about different names, and I was just watching MasterChef at the time, and I was just spraying out indiscriminate names that came to my head. It was quite good fun, actually. But then we were chatting at the dinner table, and Rossi came up with this. What do you call it? Casting Frowns?
Oh, it was Ross.
It was Ross's idea.
It was Ross's idea. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ross.
Well done, Ross.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I think it's good. I really like it. Actually, it's fun. Maybe not everyone will get it, but
I think it's fun, and it makes sense. Casting frowns. I think that's probably what we're doing sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's amazing because Casting Crowns, obviously a band. I don't know if everyone will have heard of them, but the reason for the name Casting Crowns is actually amazing. You know, Revelation 4. You've got this picture of kind of end times, and all the 24 elders kind of gathered round the throne, and you get this big picture, and then the Lamb at the center, and all these kind of great, powerful kind of figures that are set up, kind of bow down and worship, and these are the kind of kings, and have got kind of, humanly speaking, kind of all the authority. They all cast their crowns in front of the Lamb and kind of fall down in worship of him, and it's kind of this massive big. You've actually got the Isaiah 6 kind of holy, 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 kind of very, very similar language, in that this is the Almighty, the King, but then obviously you've got the dimension of this is the Lamb that's been slayed and then glorified, and everyone casts their crowns in front. So in terms
Just
of what we want,
swapping crowns in works very much.
Well,
that's a good name. That you've just explained why Casting Crowns is a really
Very
good
good.
name.
well, yeah, exactly. But that's in the background. That's in the background of the name. That's why it works and what it's referencing. Which is great. That's what we want to do. We want to, everything pointing to Jesus and kind of exalting him at the center. But then casting frowns, brilliant. Casting our frowns around the around wherever.
Around the throne room. Yeah,
Definitely.
Around the throne room, yeah. Or just across the internet, or wherever.
Yeah.
So
it's a good name.
I think it's
I
great.
think my personal favorite though was the Frown, which is a discussion about the royal family.
The frown, yeah.
That would genuinely be a well listened to podcast, I think, if no one's doing it already.
Yeah, commentary on the crown.
That must exist, but I bet they didn't call themselves the Frown. They must have tricked.
Yeah, although I doubt the three of us would be best placed to talk about that. Maybe I'd do you a disservice there.
No, I haven't watched it. Yeah.
No, I haven't watched it either. But we're like a sort of United Kingdom mashup, aren't we? Really, we represent quite a lot of the.
Oh, we do. Yeah, we represent the whole thing, I think, between us.
Not Wales though.
No, that's true. Yeah.
You'd forgotten about Wales.
Embarrassingly, I'd forgotten about Wales, but hey,
yeah. To all of our Welsh listeners,
yeah,
I hope you don't feel left out by that.
Yeah. No, I was going to. Yeah, I thought Phil might have a hidden connection to Wales.
Yeah, well, I thought so too. Actually,
I did live very, very close to Wales. So I grew up in Chester.
Well, isn't England
pretty much right on the border?
Yeah.
Sorry,
isn't England very close to Wales? So we can
parts of it are.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. You mean the border?
Exactly.
Lukey, what's going on with your picture?
Yeah, I was just going to say. Well, last week we had a grand reveal from Phil.
All right.
Challenged us, I thought, on the beard front. So.
Have you flown all the way to Nazareth?
Have you grown a beard?
This is the best I can do, Phil. In a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Give me
I
another
love
week or
that.
two, and I'll really kind of thicken it. Yeah.
Does that
Sadly,
just happen in December for you then? Does it?
yeah, it's like the beginning of a film, that isn't it? There is actually a Christmas film where someone basically turns into Santa.
It's actually the beginning of a job interview as well.
Yeah, yeah. I need a bigger belly, but I'm working on that as well.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think you would leave
Have a
church
quick
work
change
to
over
become? Would you leave church work to become Santa?
A professional
Full-time
Santa. Well,
Yeah.
that's only surely that's only a 1 month a year gig. You'd need to.
But the preparation, I mean, you know what I mean?
Making all them presents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have elves who do that for you, so you probably.
But you've got to be, he's obviously got to be preparing to get into people's houses. It's quite a big, he's got a lot of schematics up, hasn't he? And
Yeah, I bet Google Maps has helped him with that, though.
big stuff.
Have you seen Arthur Christmas? Because that's like
Yeah.
technologified Santa, which is quite cool. I like that.
It's a good Christmas film. It makes my shortlist of Christmas films that we're working our way through.
Okay. So he doesn't just break and enter into people's homes.
Well, I mean, they do essentially. Yeah, the elves do it, but they've got like cool kind of toy guns and things that fire out presents and stuff like that. So they've like modernized. They've got this cool Santa.
Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, that's like the first scene.
I know it's the first scene. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to start saying spoiler alert though after you announce.
Uh,
We should just put a permanent spoiler alert on the front of the video. Like,
This
we're bound
podcast
to
will
spoil a
all
few
day.
things.
Yeah.
Spoiling frowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. It's rare that actually that you see the beard without the rest of the Santa outfit. That was an unusual one. But you're not going to wear it for the whole thing?
No, I've just shaved that off quickly. So I thought.
Was that quite itchy? What material was that made out of?
It feels quite. I don't know really. I don't know.
Check the label.
I'm not good with materials. Doesn't have a label on it.
What temperature did you have to wash it in? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm after.
You're in temperatures, Bill.
Yeah.
It has to be the same temperature as COVID vaccines. That's what it is.
Oh heavens, not that again. You have to store that beard in -72 fridges.
Yeah.
Quite convenient, actually. Just put it in the COVID vaccine fridge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Have you got your fridge fixed, by the way, Rick?
Yes, did. It got it fixed. And it wasn't too big a job, actually. So very pleased with it. Very pleased with it.
Good.
Someone's at my door.
Good news. Someone's at the door.
Is that someone knocking on the waiting room?
Yeah.
They're not guests.
It could be.
Yeah.
But, well, yeah, as you mentioned, Luke, we do actually have guests.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting. First ever guests on the Casting Frowns. We got a new name and we've got guests. We're slowly becoming the podcast we all dreamed we would be one day.
Yeah.
So, do you want to let them in?
I will. Yeah, it would be quite fun to just invite people to a random Zoom and then they don't realize they're on a podcast.
They're on Spotify.
I haven't done that today, but it would be quite fun. Anyway, yeah, here we go. First couple of guests
in the waiting room.
Wow, that's exciting, isn't it? It's like the is it the green room you normally have on a TV show? Here we go.
Yeah. Well, you're now not in the green room. You're now in the. You're on Spotify, Lily and Emma.
Terrible. The waiting room was more terrifying than anything I've ever had before. More terrifying than like my teacher training interview. We just sat there like, it's past 5 past and we're not in the room. We're going in the room.
What's going wrong?
Yeah.
It's a bit worse than a virtual waiting room like in a dentist, isn't it? It's not waiting room.
Yeah, because we couldn't even see each other.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't have any magazines or any toys or anything.
No.
To kind of,
I just had my advent calendar behind the camera, but I didn't want to start like eating it in case like the thing started. I just been, like waiting for 6 minutes looking at my advent calendar.
You're on day 25.
No, I haven't eaten it.
My brother just came in and gave me a Kinder Bueno, and I was like, "Get out, get out!"
Yeah, that's what I always say to Catherine. I say, if you don't want to be on the podcast, don't come in at this
with
time.
the Kinder Buenos.
Yeah, just before.
Well, if you bring in Kinder Buenos, that's different.
Yeah, true. Just before we started, like Fiona and Sam were just out in the hallway, like singing and playing music and stuff, and I was like, "You probably want to just not do that." Like, they're leaving actually, I think, but they will make an appearance at some point, I'm sure, accidentally. But the first time I ever did Messy Church, it was live, and Fiona just walked in, which was fun.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Good times. Right. Who are you people that have just joined our podcast?
Emma, you go first.
Well, I'm Emma. I'm a 4th year student at Newcastle.
Nice. Studying.
Oh, modern languages, but I'm not that like keen on it, so.
Don't have to talk about it.
Oh well.
Okay.
I'm Lily. I'm a 2nd year speech and language therapist, and I am quite keen on my course, but not for
Well, you're only
shame.
2 years in. Maybe
Well,
like
it's
4
only
years, you'll feel the same way as Emma does.
Yeah.
True.
I'm seeing some real connections between your course, though. You know what I mean? Is there a course that sits in
Yeah.
between your 2 courses?
No, but you can. Oh, linguistics maybe.
Yeah, we do linguistics.
We do bits of
I'm
linguistics.
not mad about that part, so.
I love that bit. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You're
Wow.
basically the exact opposite of each other.
It's great.
Amazing.
So I have a question. Sorry, before we even, I don't even know the structure of this, but what makes, this is going to come weird, what makes language modern? Because language is not modern, is it?
Okay, so it means basically languages that are alive and used. So Latin isn't modern, for example.
Definitely not.
No, because we don't use it. Although there's like some debate, but I don't want to go into it right now, to be honest.
Good.
No, we don't want to either.
Yeah, that's a separate podcast. That would be a bit too niche for us.
Yeah, I also am not that interested in it. So.
Can I ask another question related? Has anyone invented a language recently that is now modern, like that people use?
Not recently.
Could you say like sign or Macton?
But that's not that recent either.
No, but probably the most recent.
Yeah.
What about emoji? Does that class as a language?
For like my mum.
We did have a lecture on it, so probably.
Really?
Oh, there you
You
go.
had a lecture on emojis.
Well, not a full one. I wouldn't be paying for that.
Okay. This is a smiley face.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, guys, it's genuinely great to have you on. We've been pleading for guests. I don't know if you've been listening to us for the last 5 weeks. We've been desperate for guests, so it's great that you stepped forward to be our very first guests.
Well, I'm a fan.
Yeah, thanks. So my question to you students is, what on earth has it been like being a student during a global pandemic?
Oh, Lily, you can go first.
Oh, thanks, Emma. Different. I could say different. It's finding ways of not letting people get annoyed at you in your house, and yeah, just finding entertaining ways that don't involve the city as much.
Yeah.
And it's a bit weird. Like, luckily I've been in on 1 day a week, so I'm like rare in the grand scheme of uni at the moment. So that's kind of helped, but it is a bit random. It's lots of online Zoom sessions with lots of cameras turned off, and yeah, lots of walks with people. But yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Also, obviously, pandemic started like partway through last year. I was on my year abroad. I came home from my year abroad, but it was okay. Like, I quite enjoyed being back with my family, actually, which my mum's going to listen, so she'll enjoy that.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I just didn't do anything for like 6 months because I'd already ticked all the boxes for my year abroad. So then I was just like at home, not doing anything apart from I just like read loads of things and listened to loads of podcasts. And then being back's been strange. Like, living with people is really different this time. I was talking to one of my housemates about it just before we left, and we were saying it's a lot more like being with a family in terms of you know each other so much better. You interact with each other differently because it's not like oh, I'm just with my friends. It's like, these are the people that I do my whole life with, which brings like really good bits and then bits that you have to like be patient with and things as well. And then course mates, it's been tricky because there's just like no social side to uni essentially. For like course wise, because it's all on Zoom, it's all with your lecturer there. You get put in random breakout rooms, so you're not necessarily with people you know, which is good for like actually doing work and for kind of like meeting new people. But you don't get to spend time with your course mates, so I've like had to be really, really intentional with that.
Have you seen any first years? They're like unicorns now, aren't they? It's very rare.
I have a few little peer mentor people on my course. I was going to say girls, they are all girls because my course is mostly girls, but I feel more sorry for them. Not to put a downer on it, but I went on one walk with one of the girls, and she literally, there's no way of meeting other flats if you're not friends with your flat. It's kind of a bit isolating. But we went on a lovely walk. But yeah, they're a bit of a rare one. Quite a few didn't move up, I don't think, even. And quite a few on the first year of my course are actually mature students. So they've got quite a more mature students who are living at home from the pandemic kind of time.
Yeah, it's like the exact opposite of what uni usually is like, isn't it? Because I remember from uni, I had some housemates that I lived with for like a year who I pretty much never even saw.
Yeah, same.
Like you kind of cross paths like a couple of times during the year, but they were never in when you were in, and that was how it is. And now it's like everyone's in all the time, which must be totally bizarre.
It's crazy. Very thankful that we found friends before the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. You've got that reference point
Yeah.
looking back, but must be tough for the.
Are you, because you're both heading home, have you had to sort of test and stuff before going home and all that?
Yeah, I'm home now and tested. And I got an antibody test.
Oh,
Well, what? Does that test if you've ever had it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But we don't get that back for 6 weeks. But yeah, you have to take our own blood at home. So weird.
You have to take your own blood home?
No, I had to like take the blood back at home.
Oh,
and
good.
then post it.
Really?
did you have to inject yourself?
No, there was like this suction weird thing. Like you rubbed your arm, then you like stuck it on, and then pressed a button, and then like it dropped into the thing. Me and my housemate were having a race, but then she got really faint and didn't get any blood, and mine did it in like 30 seconds. Oh, sorry.
Oh, wow, you
deal with
smashed
that.
it.
I can't deal with taking
Wow.
blood.
So the Royal Mail's just like flooded with
Blood.
students' blood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
they're going slow because of Christmas, but also because there's loads of blood being.
That's where royal blood got their name from, isn't it?
Were you not tempted to send in a little thing of like, animal blood or something just to see what came back?
Where would you get it from?
No, because I want to know if I had it or not.
All right. I just think it'll be quite fun. They'd be like, "Oh, we need to get back to this Emma really quick."
Yeah, she's got more issues than just coronavirus.
She's got rabies. Like what?
But I don't know how successful the testing has been, because I think they're doing like something like 600 a day. I don't know, these stats might be wrong, but yeah, they're doing something like that a day, but only about under 10 have come back positive from the last week. Which sounds ridiculous if you're doing that many.
Well, you're also not supposed to go if you've got symptoms. You're supposed to go straight to the NHS one. So because they don't want to like get everybody infected at the mass testing site, so you're only supposed to go if you're not showing symptoms.
That makes sense.
If you get a positive test, do you have to stay in your?
You have to do an NHS test if you get a positive test, and then you have to stay for 10 days, which is why we were supposed to do it like early.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Crazy world. I also wanted to ask you guys about how you found being part of Christchurch during the pandemic. Again, have you got a reference point of being part of Christchurch pre-pandemic and then how it is now, or did you join during the pandemic?
I mean, you can go first.
Okay. Yeah, my experience is purely pandemic based. Yeah, I joined in like May. Does that sound about right? Yeah. Rick's my home group leader, that's why I'm asking him, but he doesn't have a clue. So
Don't ask Rick. Don't ask Rick.
But it's been really good. I've really liked it. Home group's been great actually. And it's been really cool like being able to get to know a group of people really well. And like walk alongside each other. And I think it's quite interesting because I guess other than like being a Christian, we've all got something in common, like we're all going through the same thing, which is different to normal. And so I think people have like relied on each other more. So that's been really good.
Yeah. Definitely.
I joined in my first year. So I got a pre-pandemic glimpse at Christchurch and got the pre-pandemic welcome and food, and that was a good start to my first year. And then I really actually enjoyed, it sounds weird, I really enjoyed the fact that we went online for pandemic, because I was at home but I could still watch, or like family could my family could watch with me and be like, oh, that's your church, like at uni, that's a bit of your uni life, we understand it a bit better, whatever. So it actually was quite nice having it online, but it was still a bit strange. And then this term I've been watching online and went to one of the services that Emma was at as well last weekend. So yeah.
So if we weren't in a global pandemic, would you, when you went home, would you attend Christchurch virtually if that happened, or would you attend a local church where you were?
If we weren't in a pandemic?
Yeah, so like every church is open like normal, but you're home for holidays. Would you want to attend Christchurch virtually, or would you go to a church where you live at home?
See, this is the thing now, because like I'm at home, but I could go to my parents' church in person. But I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. On Christmas, I'll go to church with my family rather than. There's someone at the door, and I can guarantee my sister's not going to get it.
We'll let you go in a minute. I don't know if we've got plans post-pandemic to run a virtual service anyway, Luke. So that was a bit of an abstract question.
Well, yeah, I was just interested. I would just and taking notes for the next pandemic, and in
like 100 years' time.
I think it would depend on who was home, because I've got multiple siblings. So if they're all watching different church services, it would kind of make more sense to go to one church together. But if I was just home and then it was like one other sibling, I might tune in. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it does. It definitely raises interesting questions, and it feels bad to say that there are good aspects about the way that we've been living, because obviously no one would have wished for this situation to happen. But the way that we've started doing things differently, because we've been forced to, has raised all sorts of questions about different ministries that we could do, different ways of connecting with people. I think both inside church and outside. And some of those things, I mean, like this, would we have started a podcast like this if we weren't in a global pandemic? Who knows?
Probably not.
Probably
Emma
not.
would have willed you to.
Yeah. Is there anything from lockdown that you guys would want to keep, either student related or otherwise?
I like the fact that we make more intentional at uni. We have more intentional nights in, or like activity nights or things like that, whereas normally you would just kind of fall back on, oh, we'll go join this person to do this out, or we'll do something else. But actually, like, we made Halloween costumes just for our own entertainment. So we could have a Halloween, that sounds a bit lame, but so we could have a Halloween kind of thing. We were the pigs from Shrek, and it was great. So
great. I love those guys.
So that sort of stuff I like.
And he signed an eviction notice.
But yeah, that sort of stuff was really nice.
I don't know. I think I quite enjoy not having to go to uni, in terms of I would prefer it all to be in person, but like you can make your working day shorter, because you don't have to go there or come back. Or like if I had a seminar, normally I'd have to walk there, walk back, then start doing some work, then walk back in for another one, whereas you can just like you can work up to the seminar, which is helpful. Like spending good time with my housemates. So I live in a house of 6, and we all have like very busy different lives, and I think we would be trying to like snatch time together, but like we've like established really good time together. One thing that I wish I'd held on to from the first part of the pandemic was like reading more, because I read like 3 books a week or something in the first bit of the pandemic when I wasn't doing anything. But then I'm not very good at being by myself. So when I'm at uni, I don't like take time by myself, and so I want to try and re-implement that over Christmas and then take that back. Not 3 books a week, but like just reading maybe an hour a week or something.
I would say the fact that lots of things have had to be in like activity packs. I sound like a 5-year-old, but like the fact that that CU and like church and everything are giving out packs to send to your houses, and it's actually really helpful because we have a mix of Christian and non-Christian in my house, but like because we've got activity packs and we've each got one for us individually, like it's personal, we can all sit together with them watching a service or like doing a society thing or whatever. And that's quite nice. It's quite inclusive on them.
Yeah, That's what I do for my kids. Yeah, give them an activity pack.
Literally am that high.
Brilliant,
Very good. Well, that's good.
guys. It was great to have you on. We're gonna let you go. But thanks for being our first ever guest.
First human guest.
Yeah.
Exactly. Lily.
Look, that's a podcast fan right there.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Yeah. He'll be back
Yeah,
when there's
me and
no
Emma.
guests. He'll be back.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Great to
Bye.
speak to you guys. All right. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye. That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was
that was really good.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that the Royal Mail, the Royal Mail is now like a blood bank, isn't it? That's unbelievable.
They must have special rules of how to deliver blood. Like they can't just be going send them like normal. Sure.
In with all the letters.
Yeah.
Would you not think that the post boxes have become more red recently? Is that what you're worried about?
I thought they'd always been red.
Well, they have, but they're more red now.
Different color red.
Yeah.
Right.
O negative red.
Yeah, it's a weird one. But why is it that you see those little motorbikes carrying blood around? Like
Yeah.
they've obviously got proper little fridges or something. So why is it that when you send off blood, it doesn't? Is it because it's not going to be used for anything? It doesn't need to be fridged.
I don't know if you're expecting us to have the answers to these questions.
No, I'm just thinking out loud. Our next guest needs to be like a blood expert
Yeah, they do. I am concerned.
and a postman. That would be a great mix, wouldn't it? You get a postman and a blood expert, and how are they working?
Postmen are blood experts now.
They're going to have to be.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Oh. Hello here. Just got your blood here.
Yeah.
There you go. Just popping your blood through the post box. What?
Yeah.
Dear.
Bizarre. What a world we live in.
Yeah, I know.
Before we get sidetracked too much on that, I
Mm.
want to dive into our topic, which is for our double header in the run up to Christmas. We're talking about where did Jesus come from? And we're doing that in two parts. So today we're doing where did Jesus come from a human perspective? And then next time we'll do where did Jesus come from a God perspective? So all about what's it mean for Jesus to be God, and what does that mean? But on Sunday our sermon was the genealogy at the start of Matthew, and David preached on that. So how did you find that, guys? What jumps out at you from a genealogy? Why is it even in there? Rick,
Yes.
I refer you to my question.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was great. It is really interesting that it starts like this, because I think you wouldn't really think of starting a really dramatic story with a list of names. That feels quite strange because there's no real story or narrative content. It's like generation after generation after generation, and what's this all about? So there's not really much even to talk about, but there is actually a lot to talk about, and that's kind of one of the interesting things about it. But the thing that really struck me was, of all the names that are listed, there's one name that's repeated 3 times, and that's Messiah. Messiah at the beginning, Messiah at verse 16, and then Messiah at the end. So it's a triple-decker Messiah sandwich. And that underlines that all through the sections, Messiah is like all through there. So that's Matthew's way of kind of emphasizing, all of these names, your great-grandfather, your great-great, there's some really interesting names. Like my favorite name in there is Ram. I think that's class. I mean, I wish I would have been called Ram. But, I'm not too far away, actually. There's 2 letters, but
it's still 66% of your name.
Yeah.
Quite a lot you would need to check.
Good maths. Yeah. By the way, Rick the Ram. But the point is, name after name after name after name, Matthew highlights the really important name right from the word go. So actually the first name, Jesus, the Messiah, son of David, son of Abraham. So that's what struck out to me.
Yeah.
Lukey?
Well, I just think one thing that's helpful is it's showing that this is like God's plan continuing. and being fulfilled. It's not like scrap that Old Testament and let's start something fresh, because it's so rooted in everyone we've just read about. Like, imagine you're just reading the Bible through. It's like you should recognize them names and be like, okay, so what's about to happen is a continuation of what's just come, not something just fresh, which I think is helpful, because we can sometimes drive a bit of a wedge between the two, the Old and New Testament. So I find that helpful. And the other thing that I think David did a really helpful thing of is just highlighting where the genealogy has difference. So instead of sometimes it stops the kind of pattern of the father of, and we get like a little throwaway. Well, it's not a throwaway comment, but it breaks the pattern. And I think that's supposed to make us stop and be like, oh, I wonder why, why is Rahab and Ruth in there? Because they break the pattern. And that's quite fun, because then you can you go and read their stories, and it's quite interesting to think the fact that Jesus comes from their line and they're specifically mentioned.
Yeah.
That's good.
And those points where it mentions, Bathsheba, Rahab, you get the impression, or it tells you that this line isn't an ideal line. There's no sense in which this is a selected. Well, it is selected, but it's not like a perfect, shining example of humanity at the finest, or it is that example to pick anyway. But there's very particular things that are almost like highlighted because they those extra bits that you mentioned there, Luke, that just show Jesus's family had a lot of messiness, to put it lightly, in there. It's pretty horrendous stuff when you go back and read those stories, which makes it all the more amazing that he was happy to enter in and become the next one in that line, which is great. It just makes it really real.
Yeah, it makes it very human, and it reminds you of the humility as well, of just Jesus arriving into this kind of family. I mean, like you say, Phil, could he have picked a family that would have been squeaky clean? But
no. Yeah.
It's that Matthew does still deliberately highlight some of the worst elements of the family, like the worst sin that's happened. So, which is just and then you get the fact that he's from like Nazareth, and one of them's, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Isn't that what someone says? And again, it's like Jesus deliberately chooses. And none of us choose what family we're going to, right? But Jesus actually can, like he's God. And yet he chooses what family to be in, where to be born, what kind of family, what kind of job he's going to have. And he chooses like a humble thing at every point, which is just amazing, really. It's cool.
Yeah. So in a sense, humanly speaking, Jesus wasn't very impressive, or at least there was nothing about the circumstances, whether it be the place that he was born. I mean, obviously, the stable, being born among the livestock, but also in the place that he grew up, in the family line that he came from. It was just this kind of gritty. I feel like you make a film about it now, it would kind of be Guy Ritchie directing this kind of gritty. Well, that's the reality of it, isn't it? You could really go to town on how tough and normal and far from impressive this this kind of situation is.
I mean, even I don't know the sort of the sort of hospital environments that children came into in ancient times, but the fact that it's a stable even in ancient times was odd. So the sort of wanting to go to an inn where you'd have a sort of a kind of, I guess, probably more of a kind of a cleaner kind of easier labor and birth, but you shouldn't give birth to babies in a stable. That's a fact. I'm not even a doctor, and I know that. It is good advice. This podcast is very helpful in many different ways. But it's just so, as you say, it's gritty. It's You just wouldn't do it. You just wouldn't do it. But it was significant because it was ordained and foretold, but it shows all of the fulfillment that Jesus came into, but all of his humility at the same time to actually do it and go through with it. And it's not, the great thing about this passage is generation after generation, history after history, and all of their stories and all their family backgrounds and all the things that happen in their lives, just like the things that happen in our lives. And Jesus doesn't just come, Jesus just didn't come and sort of mildly associate with this world.
Yeah.
But like he came right into the middle of families, of people, of hearts. Like he couldn't get any closer to the world and humanity than Jesus got. And that's line after line of person and generation. We're reading about history's mess and people and what they've done. And Jesus goes, that's my family and I'm going to save you.
Yeah, right there. That's really powerful point. I love that. And it's difficult to do these two podcasts and separate these things out, Jesus from a human perspective and a God perspective, because obviously it brings the two together. But you've mentioned a few times there, Rick, the Messiah language, and we're gonna deal with that in this podcast rather than next, because I want to think about what did that mean from a kind of Jewish history perspective and a kind of family line perspective. What in Jewish terms before Jesus was born, what is this idea about the Messiah?
The word Messiah, and it's even in this sort of subnotes, it means chosen and anointed one. So that kind of unique history that Jewish had, the whole thing about Israel is the unique history, the law, the sort of special nature and calling that God had pulled them out of. And obviously the whole time there was this undercurrent of, we need a savior, and all that the law and their history was all sort of saying, and the ups and downs, and it's loads and loads of stories and judges and prophets and all this kind of stuff. And the whole time it's almost like the story is groaning for the true person to release them from this kind of cycle of constantly up and down, doing well, constantly not doing well, sin, woe is them, and all that. It's just a time after time, story after story. The Messiah is this promised release, promised king, promised anointed one, promised chosen one, with all of that ritualized, law-based Jewish flavorings, someone to come in and actually fulfill that promise of someone to ultimately break the cycle and save them from their sins. So it's become obvious with history that, and God says in different places in the Old Testament, your sacrifices aren't going to work. And I'm not happy with this situation. We need true, real sacrifice. Israel needed the Messiah to come. So it's all of that. That name is, it's kind of lost on us as Gentiles without that richness. Imagine all the stuff, sort of all the ritualistic stuff, all the stuff they have to do to be right with God. Messiah, in one word, fulfills that, completes that. Says you don't have to do that anymore. Here is the Messiah. So there's a lot of it's very densely packed.
So Luke, where do we get this idea that the Messiah is kind of a political leader? I don't know if you're familiar with that kind of perspective on it, that part of the reasons that a lot of the Jews didn't accept Jesus because he wasn't the kind of Messiah that they were expecting. Do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, and I think that's because of the promises that build in the Old Testament that Rick's kind of talking about. They get so tied to the land and the flourishing of Israel. So if you just because in a crude way, the flourishing of Israel equals the kind of like blessing of God, and that normally depends on their faithfulness and having a strong and faithful leader. So if you kind of work that through, like if they get back a strong and faithful leader, the Messiah, then blessing will come again, and they'll be led back into the land Jerusalem will be rebuilt. You know, they'll be back in the glory days of Solomon, like where everything was like glorious, rich, blessing. And so I think like they tied it to like the earthly blessings, if you like. I suppose too much, like, and so what they were expecting was someone to lead them against whoever was oppressing them at the time, which obviously when Jesus arrives is the Romans. And they've missed, whether understandably or not, they've missed actually a lot of what Rick was saying about actually what you need is the ultimate sacrifice for sin. And you need someone to bring you back to God, not just to bring you into a land. You need more than a politician. You need more than a king, like a good, you know, someone who can defeat your enemies. Like they equated their enemy to just earthly enemies again, and not their enemy of sin. And it kind of, and so when Jesus comes in, he's not talking about rallying the Israelites, if you like, into back into the land. Then he's a disappointment to them. Which is really helpful, because actually we can say, well, that was stupid of them, but you know, one thing, we have the blessing of looking back at the Old Testament. Now we know that Jesus came, and we're like, oh yeah, like that bit's obviously about Jesus, and that's obviously talking about this. But also, like, we do also have our own idea of what our Savior should be like, and what we need saving from. And his idea is bigger. Like, just think of some of the things you pray about most. It's like, what do you want Jesus to deliver you from? Is it something purely earthly, or is it actually something bigger? So actually, well, there is a parallel there of kind of how we treat Jesus.
And for Israel at the time, obviously, they were under sort of this Roman occupation. So they wanted their biggest expectation, or their biggest need that they had, was to be released from that, rather than to be released from their sin. So the power of when Jesus goes into Jerusalem on a donkey, it's like, what's going on here? You know, he walked to the place he would die. He went to the center. He went to Jerusalem, not to conquer with an army, but to conquer Satan. You know, it's the contrast is really, really interesting, because they wanted to get behind him with their swords and go, right, let's retake this and release from Roman occupation. And Jesus said, actually, there's a much, much bigger thing that you need to be released from.
Yeah. But it is ironic how their expectations about Jesus were just far too small. But yet when they see, when they see what Jesus is actually like, they end up being disappointed. And we're saying he's bigger than they ever could have got their head round or chose to. They were looking at this little part of it, and actually he was bigger than that. But yet when you look at Jesus through that lens that they were looking at it, he doesn't meet their objective. So he's in their eyes, he's too small for them. But you pan the camera back and he's doing something so much bigger. You know, their the need of a Jewish person waiting for Jesus is exactly the same as the need of us, you know, to be delivered from the ultimate enemy, you know, someone bigger than the Romans. And that would have been a bizarre statement to say back then, because you would have thought, what's bigger than the Roman Empire? There's actually a bigger enemy, and Jesus comes in to defeat the ultimate enemy, which will, you know, ultimate liberation. And I think you're right, Luke. I think we, because we set our expectations about what we need to be saved from and what our biggest problem is, you know, even when we know that the answer is our biggest problem is our sin, we need to be liberated from this, you know, decaying world. Often we feel like, actually, what my real big problem is I don't quite have enough money. And if I had enough money, or, you know, just as an example, if I had enough money, that my life would be so much easier, and I would everything would fall into place.
I think that has really leached into how we pray, particularly. That's very noticeable with our prayer lives. But then it means that Jesus becomes the meter of your needs rather than the savior of the world. And that's a really important distinction to make because you can fit him into the shape of your own needs in your life, rather than understanding the greatest need of all is actually our sinfulness to be resolved.
And that's what is actually our true human need, and that's just helpful to bring it back to like Jesus' humanity. It's like, it's not that he doesn't care about all of these human wants that we have and human circumstances. So like, as we suffer in this pandemic, you know, Jesus cares, and he kind of suffers with us. But because he understands true humanity, and that the ultimate actual need is to be brought back to God, and that's why his victory is a better one than just victory over even like COVID or whatever. Like his victory is bigger. So it's actually it's the trueness of humanity that he understands more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Which maybe we don't always kind of see. We kind of think, oh, Jesus just talks about the kind of spiritual. And it's almost like, well, it's not really in the day to day, but actually it's the other way around. Like he sees true humanity, and we tend to reduce it down.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, that was a helpful discussion. Any more to add on that before I close this down?
No, I was just going to ask what your favorite name in the list was. You got a favorite out of the genius?
All right, yeah. So you had Ram.
Yeah.
And you want to know what my favorite name was?
Yeah.
Luke.
Well, there's a guy called Salmon. Who,
yeah, that is great.
David read as Salmon, but
yeah, it's Salmon.
Come on,
yeah.
Salmon.
And his uncle was called Troy, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I also like his dad was called Nashon, which is quite cool.
Nashon on salmon sounds dangerous, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Nashon and salmon is quite a feat in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like those two. But if I had to have one for my own, I mean, I'd probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do quite like the kind of Rehoboam and Aminadab, stuff like that. It's quite cool. What about you, Phil?
Yeah. Oh, it's hard to pick just one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Out of this big long list. I've just got it on my screen now.
Don't say David.
I'll go for Eliakim. You could have that as a middle name, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I think I froze there, but I like Zadok because it sounds like a kind of product that you would use, like sort of like a shower. It sounds like Radox, doesn't it, or something like that? Zadok. Just a bit of Zadok in the shower.
Is it that all these names are weird, but we've normalized David and Jacob, and maybe there's another?
Maybe, yeah.
Or is it that actually, like, do you know what I mean? Like, why is it that all the other ones are funny to us, and yet David and Jacob, it's like, yeah, it's fine.
Maybe we picked the ones for common use that were.
Yeah, maybe.
That were. Boaz is a cool name though. I feel like that's going to be the next like Noah. You know, like there's quite a lot of Noahs around these days.
Yeah.
I feel like Boaz could be the next.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I think definitely it could be, because he's a good figure as well in the Bible, isn't he? He's a good guy.
He's a good lad. Well, Perez used to play for Arsenal, didn't he?
Yeah,
so that was.
Perez.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Who? Jose Perez?
No, Robert Perez.
Oh, Perez.
Yeah. Obed would be a good name for a bed company. Obed.com.
Obed. That's an Irish. It's an Irish bed company.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Welcome to Obed. You need to do it in your voice.
Yeah. And Ahaz, we've known a lot about him as Isaiah, but I think he sounds like a sneeze. I've always maintained this. He's got this sneeze name, which is not helpful during a pandemic. So he would have been outlawed.
It reminds me of Alan Partridge. Ahaz.
Oh yeah. It was more like more immediate, like Ahaz.
Oh
yeah. This is what you really wanted the whole podcast to be about, didn't you, Rick?
Names.
Yeah. You tried to start us off with it, and we kind of deviated into something a little bit more,
know me too well.
Hopefully more helpful. But you've brought us right back.
All right.
Yeah.
To looking at the names.
You've really landed us in a nice place there, Rick.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, enough of that. One thing to watch out for if you are listening on Spotify or YouTube or something, one thing to flag is the Christchurch virtual Advent calendar. I don't know if you guys have been watching it. Well, I know that you have been watching it because you've been in them. But one thing, do you know who really put me to shame on this was Oliver. He really put me to shame because the way that he introduced that Advent calendar, he was like, hit that notification bell, subscribe if you're new around here, and he just had all that YouTube lingo that I'm still getting to grips with. So in the style of Oliver, if you haven't subscribed yet, get subscribed, like the video. That lets us know that people are watching, helps us promote the channel, and send us your comments, and we're going to get more guests on next week, aren't we?
I believe so, yeah. Well, at least the next couple of weeks we've got some people lined up, so that's going to be good.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah.
Right, guys.
Yep.
Well, I'll see you over the weekend, and see you next week.
Cheers, Bill.
All right. Bye.